Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace be unto you. Last time we finished with ayah number 32, surah number 17, which followed ayah number 31. All of these set of ayat that we are about to continue explaining come from the directions and instructions coming from Allah, telling us last time, ayah number 32, do not get near adultery, and we explained in details what does it mean not to get near adultery. Okay, and today, ayah number 33, it takes us off to the issue of killing. One issue that came about killing was in ayah number 31. It tells us, do not kill your children out of poverty. And number 33 will go broader and says, do not kill the soul that has been sacredly protected by Allah. And every soul is sacredly protected by Allah. Every human soul is equally and sacredly protected by Allah. There is no value for the soul of anyone that is more than the soul of another person. There is no difference. In his last farewell sermon, the Prophet delineated this concept very clearly. He says that your wealth, your money, your resources, and your blood are equally protected before God. You cannot violate anyone's dignity, anyone's property, anyone's freedom. All of this is protected, but highlighted the issue of life. Your blood is sacredly protected. And that was in his last farewell sermon, which highlights the importance of his message. Okay? So do not kill the soul that has been sacredly protected by Allah except in truth. What does it mean, except in truth? In America, we say except in due process. Truth is a bigger concept. Truth means it has to be justified according to the laws of Allah. There has to be a license from the text in the Quran for this. That is where the word truth comes in. Also, the process that you follow to establish justice, to establish witnesses, to accept testimony, all of this is defined in Islamic law. They are not left up to anybody saying anything to make the process work for them or against someone else. So it excludes biases, it excludes tribalism, it excludes revenge killing, it excludes vigilante justice. All of this is excluded in the Islamic law system of justice. Further, it goes on to say, and he who has been wrongfully killed, mean unjustly killed, not wrongfully, who was unjustly, not mistakenly, unjustly killed, then we have given authority to his representative, the blood one. Okay? So let him not do further killing, which means in practice that if someone killed a relative of mine, I should not go and execute that person on my own, but I should refer the whole case to authorities. The authorities are the people that we elect or choose and give pledge of obedience and commitment to the leadership. And those are the ones that we submit our complaints to establish justice. They become neutral towards the whole process. So I should not kill in revenge. I should not kill with my own hands in retribution. But The justice system has to take over, and facts have to be established and investigated and corroborated. Then the authorities, which are the Muslim judges or courts, will establish what is the just thing to do. Of course, when they finish their conclusive investigation and facts, and they tell me we found that yes, he killed him and he killed him deliberately, and he deserves to be subject to death according to Islamic law, then I, as a family member of the murdered person, I have the authority then to say, I forgive him or I do not forgive him. If I forgive him, then he owes me what is called diya. Diya is a payoff that would suffice and satisfy the side of the person murdered, which is the victim of killing, or his family, so that it saves the blood of another person. So the Quran uses the word saying, فَلَا يُسْرِفْ فِي الْقَتْلِ. Don't let him increase the number of those murdered. So one person is murdered. If I take the law on my own hand with vigilante justice, I increase the dead one more person. So there are two. Then if the family of the other person kills me for killing him, then we become three victims. This is what excessive killing is meant in the ayah. So the ayah says, don't go in excessive killing to revenge. Rather, go to the authorities and have the court system deal with this and establish justice. So let him go in excessive killing. He will be vindicated. Ayah number 34, and do not get near the money of the orphan, which means if you accept to be assigned as a guardian for an orphan, and the orphan has resources or money or wealth, the ayah is saying, don't touch his money except for his own interest until he reaches the age of responsibility. The age of responsibility is a little bit different from the age of puberty. What's the difference? Reaching to the age of puberty will make a person sexually responsible for his or her behavior and Islamically responsible for doing what his age group must be able to do, which is to pray, to fast, the basics. But there is such a thing as the age of maturity, or the age of little bit wisdom, right? Which Islamic courts have decided that it is like age either 20, 21, 22, 23, around that age bracket, whereby a person has accumulated enough knowledge and enough experience and enough good judgments to be a wise person who's not going to squander his own wealth like a young child or a teenager, that he acts responsibly. This is regarded as the age of mature judgment or the age of wisdom. So it's clear here. The ayah saying, do not touch or do not get near the money and the possessions and the resources of an orphan that you are a guardian for, except in a good way. What is a good way? That you only use his money for the orphan's own interest. We went over this before when we explained Surah number 4, which is titled Women, okay, or named the Woman. And in that surah, it says that you cannot take from the money of the orphan except for good reason. what is a good reason? Good reason, number one, to spend it on him. Or number two, to develop it further, to invest it, to make it grow with secure investments. That's not high risk investments. Okay? The third is if you do not have resources enough for yourself and you are spending your time and efforts on developing the orphan's money, you can take a reasonable comparative wage for your service for the orphan from the orphan's resources. But this has to be according to the norm. So you don't appoint yourself and decide your own salary, right? That could be extravagant and say, I'm serving him. But this has to be monitored by either a court system or a tribal leadership that says, you are his guardian, and this is how much you can take for your own expenses in return for your service. So these are the reasons that you can use the money of the orphan for. Either to spend it on his direct interest and needs, either you are taking it to invest it for him on his behalf, or you are taking a normal, reasonable pay as a wage for yourself for the service that has to be consistent with the type of service, effort, and time that you put to serve the orphan, if you don't have your own resources. Okay. And when do we release the money to the orphan? We release the money to the orphan when he reaches the age of good judgment, which we mentioned before, the bracket between 20 and 24, 25. And then it goes on to say, and fulfill your covenant requirements. As if the ayah, and this is the same ayah number 34, talk about the orphan money, it says, fulfill your covenant. Keep the conditions of your covenant, keep up with them, which means, in a way, that it is saying this accepting to be a guardian for an orphan is a covenant that you have between you and Allah. Because the orphan is young, he is helpless, that's why he has a guardian. So the ayah is calling your commitment to this as a covenant, which means it's between you and Allah. And then it says, because the covenant is always a responsibility. You will be questioned about, how did you take care of the money of the orphan, and how you delivered his rights to him, and how you covered his needs and looked after his interest. You will be asked about this. Ayah number 35, it goes on to say, and fulfill the scale weight or the measures. Whenever you scale or weigh something, fulfill the weight. Don't make it short, not even 1 ounce or 1 gram. Make it full. When you weigh something, it says weigh it with the straight measurement. What is a straight measurement or a straight scale? It used to be in the past that the scale was something that has 2 sides and it has a stick in the middle. So it says let the stick in the middle be straight up, which means both sides are equally the same. So when you put a pound here of metal and a pound of tomato, for example, it is not less than a pound. It has to be a pound or a little bit more. But if you make it exactly equal, this is acceptable. Don't let it be tilting, okay? And it says, this is better for you, and it is a better way to achieve justice in sales and in business. Number 36, and do not seek to dig out information or knowledge that you have no personal interest in. So you hear a story, and we all hear stories. Not all stories should drag you into developing interest in other people's private lives. Don't be nosy. Don't dig out people's secrets. And don't ask people for their private secrets. If they don't open up and talk to you, don't keep digging. Don't even take interest in it. And then it goes on to say, that's the same ayah, number 36. Indeed, your hearing and your sight and your heart are but a responsibility. So what you give your ears to, you are going to be questioned about it. Why did you listen to this? What is your interest? Somebody is talking about somebody else's private life. Why do you give them your ears? Don't. Your eyes are a responsibility. Why do you look at something that is prohibited for you to see? Your heart, with which you think and weigh things, right? How do you use it is a responsibility. And as we explained before, the heart is the place where we ponder things. The heart is the place when we keep weighing things. The heart is the place where love and hate are. The heart is the place where our feelings are set, whether feeling of love or hate or fear or anxiety. And that's why our heart is always responding to our feeling to let us know how you actually feel. And when your heart is full of fear, you start sweating, you start having some anxiety and some reflection of anxiety. Your adrenaline goes up, right? And when you're happy, you're smiling, you're relaxed, and your heart is pumping in a nice way, in a pleasant way. When you see somebody you love, your heart is different from when you see somebody that you feel anxiety over, right? So our eyes, our hearing, our eyes and our hearings are a responsibility. Our hearts are a responsibility, which means you will be asked about what you use them for. These are faculties that are given us to reflect and ponder the signs of God, the miracles He shows us, the evidence He presents to us, to learn lessons and benefit for our future choices and decisions. And number 37, and do not walk the earth with pride. For you will not penetrate through the earth by walking in pride. Some people, and I'm gonna be a little bit open with you, some people, especially women, they wear heels with which they walk around digging their heels on the floor as if they want to say, I am here, don't you see me? The Quran prohibits this. Okay? And some men, they walk the earth in the same way. They are so proud, they don't want anybody to criticize them, they don't want anybody to even look at them except with awe and fear and regard, as if they are gods. This also is prohibited. It is prohibited. Why did I start talking about women instead of men? Because the Quran speaks about this very clearly in the Quran, and we will go over this further in further ayat that will come down the road in the Quran. Okay, both are mentioned. Okay, in the same surah, Surah Al-Hujurat, the rules, there are instructions. And in Surah Luqman, also there are instructions that tell us exactly the same. Do not walk the earth with pride and showing off, self-aggrandizement. And then it says, you will never penetrate through the earth, and you will never reach to be as tall and formidable as a mountain, which means humble yourself. You are a human being. You are created equal. What are you doing this for? There's no reason for that. You think you are too white, or you think you are too powerful black in Africa, or you are a tribal chief, or you are a president or a king. Nothing of that matters. Humble yourself. After all, you are created as a weak, needy human being. There is no need to drag yourself with pride and arrogance. Ayah number 38. The evil of all of this is despicable in the eyes of Allah. Whether it is killing of your children, killing of innocent soul, or getting near adultery, or eating and devouring the money of the poor and the needy that you take care of, or not being fair in business and commodity exchange or anything like it, or walking arrogance, or digging private information from people's lives unnecessarily. All of this is evil, and all of this is hated and despicable in the eyes of Allah. So, ayah number 39, this is part of what your Lord has revealed unto you of wisdom. So it's wise not to kill your children. It is wise not to devour the money of the orphan for yourself. It is wise to not kill the soul that has been sacredly protected. All of these are wise prohibitions that we should never do. Why? Because it establishes security for everybody around us. It establishes justice in our life. And it leads to peace between us as humans. When I protect everybody's life, my life is protected. When I protect everybody's property, my property is protected. So these are rules that are meant to help us establish fair, just, and peaceful societies and communities. And that's why the Quran describes all of these are wisdom that has been revealed to the Prophet, peace be upon him. And then it highlights something more important than all of the above, which is, and do not make with God other gods, whether you artificially manufacture them or they exist and you associate them as gods with God. So do not associate gods with Allah, lest you will be thrown into hellfire, defeated and humiliated and blamed. Then it goes back to discuss the issue we mentioned before, which is the issue of the idol worshippers of Mecca and people of their own imagination. They have claimed that the angels are females. If you remember this discussion we had before. So here, ayah number 40, it says, has Allah favored you with boys, and he has taken girls and angels as girls for himself? Because they claim that angels are females and they are the daughters of God. Mind you, people who said this, they did not accept females as their own daughters. They killed them at young age as infants for fear of shame, for fear of scandals. So out of this phobia of scandal, they killed young girls at young ages. How do you build a society when a man who is born of a woman would kill his daughter who could potentially be the mother of another man? It was ridiculous. It was insane. So the Quran runs over all of this junk thoughts and says, so do you think that Allah has favored you with boys and that He has created angels as females and that angels are His daughter? If you claim this, that means that He has taken the shorthand of the stick. You're giving God the shorthand of the stick and you are taking the boys to yourself, which means your judgment is insane, it is ridiculous, it's unacceptable, it is irrational. So following this in the same ayah number 40, it says, indeed, what you are saying is a grave statement. How come you attribute to God females that you actually hate and think that you are rational and consistent with yourself? So ayah number 41, it says, and we have delineated in this Quran, meaning wisdom and teachings and instructions and guidance, so that they may remember, but they increase in nothing but repulsion. They are repelled by, the more they read the Quran, the more they are repelled, the more they are rebellious, the more they run away. Then ayah number 42.
Sorry to interrupt. Back in ayah 40, there you were talking about a woman. Right. Can we? So when you were talking about the girls went back to and became angels for Allah.
I didn't say that.
Okay. So maybe let's go back and do that.
Yeah, what I said is the idol worshippers claimed that angels are females. They also claim that angels are the daughters of God. The Quran discusses this in a logical way, saying, you don't like daughters, you kill daughters yourself. How reasonable you become when you claim that God had favored you with boys and He has taken girls as daughters. So it is a discussion about the discrepancy of their logic or the irrationality of their reasoning. So it's not that God has turned girls into angels. No, their claim, the claim of the disbelievers who rejected the Quran and rejected the message of the Prophet, they claimed that angels are females and angels are the daughters of God. I want to bring to your attention the fact that until today, you see the images and the statues for angels in the churches, okay? And this came from the Roman culture. It didn't come from Jesus. It didn't come from inside the church. It was inherited from or borrowed from the Roman and Greek cultures. They have images for angels. So what is the image? Females, white females with wings. The face of a female, the body of a female, the everything of a female, and they are flying with wings. Of course, the Quran doesn't disagree with the fact that angels have wings, but it absolutely refutes and refuses the idea that angels are female. It also equally refuses the claim that angels are the daughters of God. They are not. So this is what the ayah 40 is discussing.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. Thank you for your question. So ayah number 42 follows and says, say if there were gods with him, meaning with Allah, as they claim. Say, O Muhammad, if there were gods with God as they claim, referring to the claims of the idol worshippers, the pagans of Mecca, then they would have sought a good way to get closer to God. In other words, if there were many gods with him, right, then all of these gods, they would reach out to the one who sits on the ultimate throne in desire to get close, to get his ears, to get his attention, or to get things done their way. Which means they will still be subject to his throne, subject to his rule, subject to his decree, subject to his final determination. Which means there are no such things as gods with God. So this again is a refutation for the claim that there are gods with God. Then ayah number 43, it says, glorified is he and exalted is he above all what they say, far above what they are saying and what they are claiming. And number 44, the seven heavens and the earth and all what is in them are engaged in his praise all the time. And there is nothing but engaged in his praise, everything. When it says there is nothing but, it means everything is engaged in Allah's praise. And when it says everything, it means animate and inanimate, living and non-living. Things that have souls and spirits and things that do not. They are all engaged in his praise. And then it goes on to say, but you do not understand their type of praise of Allah. This desk is praising God. This seat is praising God. That ceiling is praising God. Everything is praising God. And then it says, but you don't understand their praise. So one phenomenon that drew my attention years ago in trying to understand how is it that everybody is engaged in the praise of God when we do not see that those things that we use, inanimate things that we shape and cut and deploy and fold, how do they praise God? So when I studied chemistry and physics, and I found that everything goes back to the small atom, right? And the atom has a nucleus, and it does have electrons and protons. that revolve in orbits around the nucleus. Everything has atoms. This has atoms, right? Everything created has atoms in it, right? Living things have atoms that goes into cells, and in those cells there is water. Every living thing needs water to be living, as if water is a conductor of life. You know that this is not a conductor of electricity, this wood, right? But metals are conductors of electricity, right? So water inside the cell is a conductor of life. Life can go in a body so long as there is water. If there is no water, there is no life. So the Quran says, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. And we have made of water everything living. Every living thing is made of water. Little amount or large amount, but water always exists in every living thing, whether in large amounts or small amounts, large percentage or small percentage. Some creatures have more percentage of water than others. We humans have about 73 or 72% of our body is water, right? And when we die, this water starts to dry, right? Because the spirit is taken out. When the spirit is out, the conductor is not needed, which is the water, then it starts to dry off. When it starts to dry off, then the flesh that is composing the physical visible part of our body with the skin, they start to shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink until it gets to the skin itself and the flesh to fully decay and decompose. Then the bones start to decompose and decay. Then they go back into dust. Right? So what brings all of this is the issue of praise. So how do we know that things are praising God? We look at the atom, the smallest composite, the smallest element of anything created. And we will see that the electrons and protons always revolve around the nucleus in orbits, right? And when we humans go to the Kaaba, go to the holy shrine in Mecca, what do? We revolve around the Kaaba. What do we do there? Praising God. Angels go to the upper holy house, okay? Around the throne of God, angels are revolving in what is called Al-Bayt Al-Ma'mur, the everlasting house, okay? That is constantly full. What is it full of? It's always full of angels. Angels are coming in and out of this in the hadith. 70,000 angels go through the house and around the house in praise of God, and they do the rounds and go and they never come again. New 70,000 come in, new 70,000 come in, new 70,000 come in. Imagine. So the idea that atoms have electrons that constantly revolve around the nucleus of the atom, and that humans are revolving around the Kaaba, and the angels are revolving around the Bayt al-Ma'mur, the house in heaven, all engaged in the praise of God, it means that this kind of motion with the praise of God are the common thread between us and the universe in which we are part of. We are part of the creation of Allah in this universe. But again, because the Quran says you do not understand their type of praise, right? I cannot say that what I just explained is the type of praise they are actually engaged in. But we see in Surah An-Naml, the ants, that Allah is telling the mountains and the birds to join with Dawood in his praise of and the chanting of praise of God. يا جبال أوبي معه والطير. O mountains and birds, join and be a chorus in the chant of the praise of God with Prophet Dawood, David. Prophet David was the most beautiful voice in praising God. So Allah, out of love of his chant of his praise, told the mountain and the birds, join with him in the praise of God. Imagine the world of mountains, the world of the earth, and the birds are instructed by God to join Prophet Dawood in the praise of God. It becomes like a chorus. We need to see ourselves as faithful believers in God as part of this universe, which means we have to live in harmony with Allah's expectations and not run against the stream of His creation and destroy ourselves. We explained this phenomenon before, in which we said that if we, the humans, which are the creation that has free will, and the jinn, who also have free will, Jinn, they also have free will like us. If our free will leads us to run against the will of Allah, we are going to only destroy ourselves. And this is huge, this is grave. So there is nothing but they are all engaged in His praise and glorification, but you don't understand their way of praise. And then it goes on to say, indeed, Allah is fully relenting and oft forgiving. Relenting means He is always patient with us. You can be the most reckless, disobedient person on earth, and He continues to provide for you. He may give you more than others anyway, because He is relenting. He is not desperate. Allah doesn't rush His punishment. So He gives people a chance after a chance after a chance. Even in terms of disobedience or even total kufr, rejection of Allah, a human being has a chance to believe or not believe, to be obedient or disobedient, to be submissive or to be ungrateful to God. Why does Allah let people who are ungrateful deniers of His power and His existence live and enjoy life? Well, that's His divine wisdom. He wants to give them a chance to reflect. He continues to provide. And we went over some ayat in the same surah, surah number 17, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we provide for those and those meaning the obedient ones and the disobedient ones. And the provisions of God are never limited or short. So he gives, and he may give a disobedient person more than he gives 10 obedient persons. Because this life is not meant to be the life for reward. This life is meant for us to reflect and ponder. Where are we from God? How do we want to use this short-lived life? So for 60 or 70 or 80 or more or less years, God is extending an ample opportunity for people to reflect and ponder. So if somebody lives their full life and consume all of their provisions, what else do they want from Allah? To give them a chance? So in the hadith, the Prophet, peace be upon him, says, if Allah lets a person live till the age of 60, He has given him more than enough chance. Which means after the age of 60, you have reached the peak of experiencing, wisdom, good judgment. You've gone through a lot. To continue to make trivial mistakes as you did in the past when you were a child or young man or anything like this. So we have to be submissive to Allah and grateful for the extensions He keeps giving us until we die. And nobody should hear these words and say, okay, I'm less than 60, so Allah will give me a break. Well, don't do that to yourself, because Allah will ask you, so long as you know what is right, you know what is wrong. If you deliberately, with your own free will, choose to rebel against Him, you must be ready to answer for your behavior. So this is not meant to say, if you are younger than 60, you are forgiven. That's not what it means. But it means if you reach 60, you have zero excuses, right, to rebel against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So ayah number 45, I think I will stop here. We can use those 8 minutes for questions, if there are questions.
Yes.
Okay, let me mark this here. Yes.
We stopped on 45, I think, 45.
We will resume at 45. We finished 44.
Thank you.
Sure.